from what we learned earlier today, which was this idea of seeing like how the physical structure is ultimately like designed, right? So earlier we were learning in Shari Kadisha by Rabbi Chaim Vital. He talks about this idea of understanding that every single human being, like he gave the same type of a structure that was used. Like if you take Rav Ashlag, for example, we used the example earlier, and he talks about the three parts of the body representing the three different stages of human progression, and showing how, in essence, it shows how, in essence, the people that came at an earlier generation were at a higher level, but they weren't able to reveal the light that the later generations are able to reveal, because more of the physical structure of light has been created. And so the structure that they use is a body. But it's really not a body as we know it. I mean, that's just the way you would say it. But it's really a series of what they call parsufim, different faces of the sphero, right? And so these different these different expressions of the sphero, we could like kind of like how you look up in the sky and you see a bunch of stars and you say, oh, well, that looks like a horse. And this one looks like a tiger. You know what I'm saying? Like people could do that, right? But in essence, the stars themselves are not that. Now you could apply that to it and use it as a point of reference, right? Like, okay, this alignment that looks like this is connect. You know what I mean? You could do that, right? But in itself, it's not that, right? So it's the same thing. So when we talk about a physical body structure, we're not talking about a body. We're just saying like here are the different spheros, and then we're structuring it in that way so you can understand it. So the higher souls were in the earlier stages when the skull was being created of the body, right? And then eventually the neck, and eventually the torso, stomach area, right? So he said that in the 6,000 years, the first 2,000 years, were in a frame of toho vuhu, right, which was just a lot of chaos and these things. And he says, it was basically a head was created, but there was no body, right? So you had all this crazy potential, but it wasn't fully manifest. And so the second 2,000 years were in the frame of the Torah, right? In the frame of the Torah, and this aspect of like enlightenment, if you want to say it for that matter. But it was able to reveal because you had a head and you had a body. He said, but still, even then, there was certain limitations. He said, but now we're in a frame of of Yesod, we're in the frame of Netzach, Netzach Hod Yesod and Malchut, right? We're in that frame, the lower part of the body, the legs, the feet, the reproduction, that whole area, because we're at that stage in progression, there's more of a body that's being created, for lack of a better term. There's more of a body that's being created, that has been created or revealed for that matter, right? And because of that, there's a greater fluid, like a greater revealment of light, even though the souls that came before are higher, the souls now are able to elevate a level of light that they weren't able to because there's more of a structure created, right? And so that's the frame. So like now, the biggest secrets, people who will be considered more simple in past generations, can reveal them, right? So we should have humility, right? We have more access to things. But the point is like this. So that's the structure of the body that Rav Ashlag presents. So over here, Rav Chaim Vital presents another parsufim of a body, right? And it's the same type of structure, right? The same exact structure that Rav Ashlag did. But Rav Ashlag just talked about it in the frame of understanding how this structure can show you the beginning, middle, and the end of creation, right? So the second 2,000 years would be the frame of Mashiach, right? The first 2,000 Tovuhu, second 2,000 Torah, and then the last 2,000, this era of like Messianic consciousness, right? So we're in that process of those last 2,000 years, or in the front of that. So everything we're experiencing is that kind of reality, right? And so that same structure of the body, right, is used over here by Rav Chaim Vital, and Rav Chaim Vital is saying that the the structure of the body could be also understood like this. And what is the way he's saying? He's saying that every single soul that manifests on the physical reality, right, or even the ones that haven't manifest, are all expressions of the different aspects of that physical body, right? That same physical body that we understand that explains to us to the continuum of reality, right? The first, the beginning, middle, and end, right? The emet, right? The system. And so that system also is being looked at as that the souls that come into this reality, they're going to experience these 2,000 years, all derive from different aspects of that body. And not only the different aspects of that body, even the clothing of that body, right? And so that clothing of that body now represents this expression of souls that's in this world. This is what Rav Chaim Vital is bringing, right? So we have to be able to bring the sources and make certain connections. And that's what we're doing now. We're making a connection between Ramchal. I mean, sorry. In essence, we're doing Ramchal too, right? Because we talk about the midot and the clearing of the limbs, but we're creating a bigger point. It's saying that, so we're bringing Rav Ashlag, and we're comparing his structure of the body to Rav Chaim's Vital structure of the body, and we're saying all the different souls that come into this reality derive from this super source, which is an expression of the creator, right? So this expression of the creator is why we have 613 parts of our neshama and 613 parts of the physical body in terms of, like, the parts that make everything circulate, right? So that structure of the soul and the body is connected to the expression of this upper body, right? And so this upper body frame, right, also is an expression of the Shekhinah, right? The feminine, the divine presence of the Creator, right? This is where all these souls are coming from. They're from that upper reality, right? And so that same upper reality that the souls come from is the same upper reality that designed the physical creation. So this physical creation itself is a expression, right? The physical creation itself is an expression of these 613 principles that make up the expression of the soul, which makes up the body. And so all of creation is under this governance of the creator, where the neshamas originate from. And so as a person uses their bichira, their free will, right, as Israel, right, uses their bichira, their free will, Israel will be able to connect, not only that they'll be able to connect themselves to the different aspects of that body as a total body, and also connect their entire being to the aspect of the body that they emanate from. So there's two parts of it. So for example, he brought this idea of understanding that, you know, is this idea of looking at how many different parts of the body are a part of a particular mitzvah, right? And it's important to understand that, because when we do the mitzvah, the more we're aware of all these different parts of the body that are involved in the mitzvah, all of those parts of the body receive light, right? So like a person stands up and they have, a piece of chocolate in their hand, and they say the bracha shachol bivaro, right? So the holding of the chocolate, right? All the limbs, right, that are holding the hand receive this light from Hashem, right? The physical body that's standing up, the organs, and all these things are receiving light from Hashem, right? Because all these body parts play a role in this light being revealed in this world, right? And not only that, you're elevating the physical entities that make up this chocolate, right? So he's bringing that idea, right? And so he's saying, as we reveal that experience from above to below, he says that affects the physical world that we experience, because the physical world is also in conjunction with these 613 principles or connection points. And so now we can understand back what Rav Ashlag says. He's like, hey, you're going to reach your correction. It's either going to come through Torah mitzvot or it's going to come through suffering. But you are going to get there. You will get there, right? You have the 210 years of slavery, which was the suffering. That's one option. And you had, going to Mount Sinai, which was receiving Torah mitzvot. There's no more slavery after that. So anyway, so that we're just working through this because we're using this as a basis before we go into the tour. We're going to learn some more about the mourning process, right? Waking up as a tzaddik and not revealing ourselves or whatnot. But we want to just be kind of clear on this process, right? So when you hear halachot, right? You hear a particular halacha in a particular area, you're going to be thinking in your mind how many aspects of yourself is involved in this mitzvah. Is it your voice, your thinking process, your physical body, what parts of your body, all of them. I mean, like when you're standing, you're saying Amida. Your feet are receiving, they're part of the mitzvah. By definition, you're standing, you're vertebrae, right? You're not sitting down, right? You're saying words of Torah, you're this, and then you're seeing this mitzvah is binding you to this upper world with this supernatural body where you're able to now receive sustenance. Like in the same way, like a cow, a baby calf is receiving from his mother's udder, right? You are now receiving sustenance from this upper world when you use when you do the mitzvah. And that's why it's important to know what physical parts of the body are part of that mitzvah, right? Because you're binding yourself with the supernatural body where you receive all your sustenance from, the Shekhinah, right? So that's the outlook, right? So with that being said, I want to make sure we're already there. Okay. All right, no, I was debating should we start learning, but we gotta stay focused. No, I was learning this Pirkei Eliezer on like the solar system, and they're going through all the planets and all that. Anyways,
Yeah,
all right,
yeah, that's one of the first ciphers I read.
the,
Blew,
the Pirkei Eliezer.
yeah, it blew my mind. Whoa, it's before I knew anything about Gamara, Midrise. Oh, I knew nothing. That's the first thing. Like, I think that's like one of the first ciphers I read. I was like, what is going on? What is this? Who is this person? What is he talking about?
Okay, so all right, okay, so anyway, so we're back. We're going back into the Orach. Um, and basically, we're in that frame of reference where we are making these connections now. We're learning halakha in a new way because we're seeing like the structure of the halakha is giving us an outline of how we make this connection, right? He says uvi kenisto libed hakasa kasa omer veta vedu. So he says like this. He says, upon his entrance to the bathroom, he should say. So he's saying. So this is like old school, but a lot of people don't say this, by the way, because Rabbi Pinchas actually, Chief Rabbi Pinchas, he holds by this in terms of the 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 bracha. Okay, so a lot of people don't hold by this. They say it's like it's too much, this, blah blah. So he says, okay, so that what I'm saying is normally everyone does the bracha when leaving the bathroom, right? But very few people do the bracha going to the bathroom. By the way,
Yo,
just
Rob,
so
I do this every time.
so
Every
so
every
so,
time. Yeah, I learned this in Barracold.
okay, so let's do it. So it says, he says, may the honor of the Holy One who accompanies the Most High be esteemed. Guard me, help me, wait for me until I enter the exit. For such is the way of human beings. So did you say this before you go bathroom?
Came. Been on
What?
land for like the last few years. Yep.
And so it says, did you would you learn in you say
Uh,
Masecta Brakot
yeah.
in the Talmud?
Hmm.
Interesting. A lot of like Mikubalim, a lot of Kabbalists do this. So he says, and so he says, and so should he say every time that he enters. He should be modest in the bathroom and not uncover himself until he sits. And he should clean out his anus and then sit. And he says, and he should uncover two hairbreadths. So he says, like basically, like when you go in the bathroom, you should be modest and not fully uncover yourself, right? And he says, and he says, a woman, a hairbreadth behind her, and nothing at all before her, right? And she sits, and she should or orientate herself so that she faces to the south with the with his with his behind to the north, that he should not be sitting between east and west. So that same direction that we pray, we want to make sure. I think most houses are designed like that here in Israel. I'm not sure, but I would imagine they would be. But in terms of like, yeah, you want to whatever. I don't know. It's the whole thing. So he says he should not sit between the east and the west. He says, however, this is specifically where he relieves himself in an open area. But so it's like when you're in an open area, but in the house, like it's different. He says, but in a place in which there are barriers, such as a bathroom, in which is in a house, it needs not to be so uh, exacting. And so he says, and when he relieves himself in a field, if he is behind a fence, he may relieve himself immediately. He says, but in a valley, he must distance himself until such a point where his associate is not able to see him uncovered. He says he should not be forced himself to push too much. He should wipe with his left hand and not with his right, and he should not wipe with clay with a clay share because of sorcery, nor with dry grass, nor with a piece of leather with which his companions wiped. He should not relieve himself. He should relieve himself modestly at night, in the same manner that he does during the day. He should not urinate standing, so that the drops do not drip on his feet, and he appears like a newt, resulting in slander about his children, except when he can stand in a high place or urinate over a overturned soil. He's saying, like, people who live in that, like, the outback life. You know what I mean? And so he says he should care concerning the prohibition not to take hold of the member and urinate except when the crown down towards to the ground side. And if he is married, he should not make his needs wait. All right, bro. I mean, it's a whole thing behind that last point. But the point is just saying they're just giving coordinates, man. They're giving like spiritual coordinates to be able to do that, right? Okay. So even when you see like if there's certain halakot around how to urinate, how to do number one and how to do number two, for lack of a better term, and how to clean yourself. All these things are mitzvahs, right? Like you know what I'm saying? Like they're mitzvahs in terms of like you're fulfilling a positive commandments, right? Of cleanliness, all these different things, right? So you have to think about how many body parts are involved in that, right? Because even that part of the body, the rear, the anus, and the stomach, and the digestive system, all these things, and the pushing it out, the whole thing. And now you can see this whole thing. So he says, he says he says Viraketz Beni Kon the Kinon Kefiz Yivarech. But I so he says like this. He says he should wash his hands and he should wash his hands and clean and recite the blessing. Blessed are you, Hashem, our God, the King of the universe, who sanctified us with his mitzvot and commanded us concerning the washings of the hand. He should be enacting and pouring them over 3 times an account of the evil spirits aligned upon the hands prior to washing, which is not viviated until he is poured over them 3 times. So, bro, he's holding by this like this is like I remember this sefer was written in the 1300s, bro. You know what I mean? Like this is like they've been holding by this for a minute. Dude. Like this is like real Masora. You know what I mean? Anyways, so he says, therefore he needs to refrain from touching his hands prior to washing, to the mouth, to the nose, to the ears, to the eyes, on account of the evil spirits aligned upon them. But if he has no water, he should wipe his hands with a stone chip or with any type of wiping implement and recite the blessing concerning of the cleaning of the hands. But if he has
Now,
no water, yeah, go ahead.
Rob, we go 4 times, right?
One, two, three, one, two, yeah, three, four, because it's the fourth one yeah, it's a perspective. I mean, if you did it 3 times, you do, but I do it, and Rabbi Pinchas does it, especially for sleeping,
Mm,
um, um, the 4 times. But when it comes to eating, we just do it the 3 times.
okay.
Right. All right. So, Chief Rabbi Pinchas. Okay. So. Okay, so it says Vikon Berakutav Perush Maha Malakut it says Malakot so he says like this. So he says he should truly intend he should truly intend in the words of the blessings the meaning of the words which come out of his mouth. Like, because the words coming out of his mouth and intentions, those are all aspects of the light force of a show that comes in the performing the mitzvah, right? The intentions, the mind, the mouth, the voice. He says, and concerning his mentioning his name, he should truly intend the meaning of the recitation of the letters, of the aleph, dalet, right? So that's also using his eyes. It's another light force coming in. And he says that as a terminology of the lordship, he is the Lord over. He should further truly intend the meaning of his writing, Yud Hey, as a terminology of being. That is, that he was and is and he shall be. And he says, upon mentioning Elohim, he is truly intended that he is mighty and firm, as he possesses capacity over the upper and lower realms. Bro, he's saying the Kabbalah right here. He says, "For El is the terminology of power and the dominion, in the dominion, and as it is, he carries away the gods of the land. Uvered bracha asher yatzar kun halolim. Oh, sorry, chalolim. Sorry, chalolim, chalolim. He says, "Velo yamar vechalolim chalolim." So he's saying the bracha. So he says when a person is reciting the bracha, and he says chalolim, chalolim. He says the empty cavities. He says when he's trying about chalolim, he says empty the cavities. He should not say empty the cavities, halolim, halolim. He says as an illusion, the subject of the empty cavities, halolim. He says what counts to 248. Wow. He said it counts for 248 like the sum of a person's parts. He says, "See, you see how everything, bro. This is like we're learning Rav Chaim. That's like 500 years ago, right? And then we got Rav Ashlag, who was like what, not even 100 years ago, right? Less than that, right? And and now we're reading the Torah that was written in the 1300s. Same thing, bro. It's called Masura. It doesn't change. It's not like because they're over there. It's the same thing, bro. But it's deeper ways of understanding it by learning all of them. So he says, it is impossible to exist as it is stated in Tractate Nida. He says, the entire time in an infant is in the mother's womb, it is navel upon he says, the entire time that the infant, I think we learned this actually, the entire time that the infant is in the mother's womb, the navel is upon its mouth. And he says the navel is upon his. Okay, all right. The entire time an infant is in its mother's womb, its navel is open and its mouth is closed. When it emerges into the air, the close opens and the open closes. For where it is not so, it is impossible to endure. It is a wonder to create such as it is stated in the Midrash. For you are great, creating wonders. A person is like a water skin full of air. Should a person make a, perforation in a water skin the size of a needle pin, and the air comes out, and yet that person becomes a full being. So he's going through this process of like how we like come into existence and the miraculousness of it. And he's saying that, he says, yet a full person. Oh, he says, but yet a person is full of openings, and his parts and his spirits are within him, performing wonders. So he's saying, like, just the fact that like we're able to have a body that takes something, all the good out of food and these things, and it breaks it down, and it allows us to just like release ourselves, right? And so he's saying that, and yet a person is full of openings, and yet his spirit is kept within him. So he's saying all these hope. We have a mouth, we have anus, we have the nose, we have ears, we have eyes, all these things, but the soul still stays inside of us and never leaves. And he says, yeah, and he says when he says, but if he immediately goes to the synagogue and wishes to delay reciting the concerning washing hands, and until he comes to synagogue, when he will put them in order at the rest of the blessings, it he has the authority. If he needs, so he's saying like if a person is going to shul, that's interesting. I don't know that. He says if, but we still got to touch stuff. Maybe he's saying without a blessing. He says indeed, if he should immediately recite the blessing concerning the washing hands, and he who has created there are who's to say that he needs to say it immediately afterwards, the soul of my God, until the blessed be he who returns the soul to the body. So this is the blessing we see in the morning. And he says in sense, in tandem with the blessing, he who is created subsequently does not open with blessed. But there are those who say he does not need to say immediately after it. The reason that does not open with bless is because it is thanksgiving, thanksgiving blessing, like the rain blessings, which does not open with bless. This is logical, for it proves in the tractate Brachot in the chapter, until one who sees, which says, he when he awakes from his sleep, let him say, the soul, my God. Later it says, thus, when he washes his hands, let him say concerning washing the hands, thus at the Rambam ordered them, may his memory be may his memory be a blessing. Okay, so this is actually the last part of the first section, which is a huge thing. Okay, so we're gonna finish this off, but we're getting the idea, right? We're getting the idea of this idea of waking up in the morning, this idea of washing our hands, our idea of going to the bathroom and then coming out and saying a bracha. He says, "V'chol hayom sheus sarik sarikav yudalav shekatini." So he says the entire day he performs his needs, and there he performs his needs, and there are those who say that for the urination he recites the blessing he who created the bowel, he who created, and for bowel movements concerning the hand washing he says there are those who say whether the bowel movements or urination he recites the concerning of the washing hands. So again, this is the interesting thing about the way the tour is written. Everything's really just kind of like compact. You know what I'm saying? That all these things are compact. Later, the Beis Yosef comes. Rabbi Yosef Karl comes in at the time he was the chief rabbi of Sfat or head posek, and as Ari comes, everything changes. But the point is just saying that the dynamic is still to say that you can see how it's written and how everything's just kind of like munched together. I mean, for the way we learn today, you know what I'm saying? So anyway, so he's going through the different aspects of the different brachot. I never heard like ever the way we hold today. And that's the thing. So you have the way it's written, and then the whole thing, and that's when we learn the Beis Yosef. That's why I want to go and learn the first section of the Beis Yosef, and you can see how this first section of the Beis Yosef, how it's written differently than the first section of what we're reading now, which is the Bala Turim, right? The tour, right? So the first section the Orach, right? The Orach, we're going to read the first section, and then eventually we're going to learn the Beis Yosef in his first section, right? And that first section is going to we could compare the two, but you see the way it's written. That's why I'm bringing it up. Okay, so he says, and that's another key point about this. It's a style of writing and how they wrote it and how they explain these ideas. There's one Masurah. No one's creating anything new. There may be insights that a person brings that other people didn't bring, but there's nothing new. There's nothing new under the sun. And if it's new under the sun, it's not a part of our Masurah. That's why you have to find your ideas inside the history of Torah thought and find great Rabbanim and attach your thoughts to their thoughts. We don't operate in a place of ego, right? We operate in a place of saying like, hey, this is what our ancestors held by. And yeah, it's a new way of looking at it, but it still matches up. And we deliberate on it. Okay. So he says, concerning the blessing of the hands, he says, all the more so if he wishes to study after bowel movement, he needs to say concerning the washing of hands, my master, my father of the universe, may the memory of his righteousness be blessed, and would not recite the blessing for the bowel movements only. He would only he who created, even when he wishes to study. It is not even when he performed his needs and wiped his urine and wiped himself off and would pray immediately after. Then he would recite the blessings concerning the hands washings and this language, and this is the language which he wrote in response to to a question. If he performed his needs and wiped, or he or okay, so he says if he performed his needs and wiped, or the it was minors who wiped off and wished to pray, he would rinse his hands and recite the blessings concerning the hand washings. But the entire day when he performed his needs or urinates, even if he wishes to study, he needs not to recite the blessing concerning the hand washing, but rather he who created. Okay, he's going through the bracha, these types of things. Any thoughts, reflections on that? I know you're already doing a lot of this stuff, but you know,
Um, yeah, I mean, just the system of Kedusha, Hashem, because everything manifests in a physical reality. That's the beauty of it. So just having a proper intention. to align ourselves. It made me think about I don't know why this kind of came up, but just how Hashem, he hid the light so it wouldn't be misused. You know what I mean? So it's like for us having a structure, it's like tapping into that small spark of the light to elevate ourselves and our surroundings, to cause continuity with Hakadosh Baruch Hu, to be in the image of the King. All these are the steps necessary for us to bring down the Shekinah, to create a world that's accessible. I don't want to say a world that's accessible for Hashem, but making it comfortable in a way, making it welcoming for the King. You know what I mean? By washing the hands, by acknowledging these different aspects of the reality that He created, and we're choosing to go in direction of Tov, in a direction of good, what He determines good, not what we determine to be good. So, doing all of these mitzvahs, they're such a and the way He created for us to understand, like, okay, this mitzvah is connected to this spiritual organ. It's making it digestible for us, and it's giving us opportunity to choose, which is the greatest power to procure us, the greatest power that Hashem gave us, in my opinion. We get to choose what we want to do. So right now, by studying the Holy Torah, we're choosing to connect to Hashem's light. By washing our hands in the morning, we're choosing to connect to the system that Hashem created. We're choosing to maximize who we are and what we are. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about.
Yeah, and just another point to really bring in that in terms of the teaching of Rav Ashlag, he talks about these levels of perception, right? I think we talked about it maybe earlier this week. We talked about the four levels of perception, but it's good to go over it. So the four levels of perception that Rav Ashlag brings down in his preface, actually, to the Zohar, and he says that in the four levels are substance, form of substance, abstract substance, and essence, right? And so he says the main point to analyze these four levels from is is to say, like, first you got to define what is substance, right? To be kind of clear. So substance itself would be like, say you have a tree and like you have like molecules, right? You have trees are made of molecules, cells, DNA, this type of a grid thing, right? That would be the substance. The form of the substance is the tree itself, right? So it's the same thing like by a person, right? So the person is the substance of a person is obviously the cells, the molecules, these things, but it's also other things like personality, right? Consciousness, midot, right? So a person could be a totally truthful person, or a person could be a complete liar, right? That aspect is part of his substance. Now, the form of substance is the person that you meet and the personality in the whole thing, right? So that's the thing. So that you have the DNA grid map of something, which is like the molecules, the DNA, the inner, like the DNA, I guess, the expression. And then you have the actual person or the physical, the flesh, the tree, the physical expression of that, right? So that's everything in reality. Everything has these two parts. Everything has a DNA, and everything has an expression of that DNA. That's how we see what it is. If it doesn't have a physical expression, we never saw it, right? So that point is there, right? And so the issue is the idea of abstract substance. Abstract substance is our ability to connect to these external aspects of something, right? So, like for example, a tree is there, right? So abstract function is saying, okay, so there's a tree there. So I have a certain understanding of what a tree is and what a tree isn't and all these different types of things and the likes or whatever, you know. And then I'm projecting that onto it. The smell of that tree, I'm projecting what that smell means. You know, every aspect of my five senses is projecting what these different things mean, what the birds in the background mean, what the smell means, what I'm seeing means, because I'm only seeing 1% of that reality. That's the objective component. The objective component is that I am projecting what my an imagination on that substance and that form of substance. I'm projecting onto that. I'm not even connecting to what it is in terms of the expression. I'm connecting to how I'm doing. That's how some people can say, "Oh, well, I'm triggered." Right? Someone says, "Oh, yeah, I'm triggered. This triggers me." What are they saying? They're saying that what is being what what their five senses is connecting to is connecting them to another to something else in their imagination that's making them feel fight or flight, that's making them feel panic, right? That's what that's what it is, right? It's those five senses, and then they create a reality off of that. They create an imagination off of that. And so Rav Ashlag, you one example he brings, he says, like, a person, could study a lot about like justice and see the world a certain way and come to the conclusion that, what, truth is the only thing that matters. Truth no matter what. Truth no matter what. And they could come to that conclusion. They could objectively see something in the world and receive information and objectively come to a conclusion this way, right? He says, but even if that person had the ability to save, say, 1,000,000 lives by telling a lie, that objective truth that they have would allow 1,000,000 people to die, because that's the conclusion that they came with. As with the Torah, does not allow us to live in the world of objectivity, where we're going around, just projecting what we think something is. No, the Torah says this is how you have to deal with this. This is how you have to deal with that, right? And the biggest aspect, next to the objectivity that we're projecting all the time, is the understanding that we will never know what the essence of anything is. Because even the form and I mean, even the substance and the form of substance are only an expression of the essence. But the essence is something that we never going to understand. It's beyond our logic. It's something we don't even understand the essence of ourselves, as Rav Ashtai points out. So it's important to go and start to rethink, what's going on around us and say, like, wait, I'm not even seeing reality. Whatever confidence I think I have based off of routine, based off of familiarity, is not necessarily true. That's how people could be in business relationships, personal relationships, and all of a sudden, in 20 years, something changes. You were never connected to, you were only in the frame of your objective reality, of your objective substance. That's it. And everyone is. Because that's the way God made reality. Even the substance in the form of substance we can't connect to because we're locked in the world of our objectivity. We're locked. And the only thing that allows us to apply ourselves to the substance in the form of substance is the Torah. So it's not just saying we're obedient and God is the greatest and we're going to do what the master says. Okay, yeah, it's true. Very nice, very nice. Other religions can say the same thing. But when we get into the perceptions of reality and we understand that we are walking around blind, right? No matter how much information we have, we are not able to see past a certain point. And what we think we're seeing is we think we're seeing the totality of things. I know everything about you. I read everything about this book. I know this entire subject matter. I've traveled here. I know that. We think that. And we have this arrogance and this confidence that makes us say, like, oh, yeah, 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 I know. I know. Yeah, yeah, I know. I know. Right? This is how we think. I know. I fully get it. I'm so learned. Right? So is that being able to understand that objectivity is we will lose in life 100% of the time going at it, and we will suffer. And we will come up with ideas that we think are so profound that are rooted in emptiness. And we'll come up with all these reasons. And look at this, like people talk about Darwin's theory. How can you trust Darwin's theory and everything he's writing about is what he saw with his five senses? What does he have? All these philosophers, Plato, Socrates, all these people were in the frame of what they saw with their eyes, and even more so, none of them ever worked on themselves. None of them have ever did Torah mitzvot. They weren't even circumcised. And so these outlooks that they have about life and reality and the way things are and this and these great philosophers and promoting being sodomites, the whole thing. So it's just saying like that dynamic is because people are locked into the frame of believing that their objective understanding of reality is a totality. And this is what the Torah saves us away from. This is what the mitzvahs, save us away from. It saves away from living a life with an objectivity that's not rooted in the substance, the form of substance, or even close to the essence. And if we can't even connect to the essence, and our physical reality makes us perceive that we are in many cases. Say, hey man, I look like I be asking fool stuff sometimes. I be, bro, how you know about this girl, Doug? This fool told me, hey man, I can see it in her eyes. I said, bro, how you know this girl's Jewish? He's like, yeah, man, I looked in her eyes, man. Now he's completely in the objective reality. He's completely in objective reality. So that's the part that we have to fight, going forward is this idea of perceiving that we can see, perceiving that we can hear, right? And only when we connect our ears, our mouth, these different parties to the super body in Shemaim, in the heavens, in the Shekinah, and those parsufim that we call a body, which are gateways to the higher reality of the endless world that we can't even comprehend with words. This is what we do when we perform a mitzvah, right? We completely make a unification to the upper worlds and the upper bodies and the upper worlds. And that world is what perpetuates reality. So we now, through that 613 mitzvahs that we connect to above, also creates dominance in below, right? Those mitzvahs create dominance below. And so now we create a power in this physical world, right? We create a power now because we're binded with the supernatural body above, which dictates the whole reality below, right? And so what stops us from doing that is the objective reality, which is the wrapped in the ego, right? And we think that we know, we think that we see, we think we know the right thing. No, all we can do is serve Hashem. That's the only right way. Anyways, so let's continue tomorrow. Any last words? Any last idea?
Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem. It's just the Yesahar was created to aid us, to allow us to have that freedom of movement in this world for Saya, be able to act, be able to move. Because when HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world, I mean, he concealed himself. You got he's concealed within this world, so it's our obligation to see him through it all. That's why he told Moshe Rabbeinu, like, hey, I'm the one hardening Pharaoh's heart. And I think I said this yesterday. I'm the one hardening his heart. I'm the one behind all of this. I am the one who's behind everything. And during Shavuot, when Hashem revealed himself, he revealed himself not only to Bnei Israel, but he revealed himself to the entire world. Anoki, I'm the one who created you. I'm the one who gave you, the sustenance, the ability to even be able to function. I am the creator. So it's the whole world has that spark of understanding godliness. And it's just, B'nai Israel's job to remind the world, to reveal that light, to show the world what direction we're supposed to be going in, how we're supposed to be conducting ourselves, how we're supposed to be, you know, connecting to Hashem at all times to bring down the sustenance, to bring down that divine abundance. Um, so it's an amazing thing. Like even, I was listening to a shir and a point was brought out about like what world was Hakadosh Baruch Hu and Adam Rishon and the Chava and the Nachash. What world was that? What world were they in? Were they not in absolute in a sense? Because like from the fall, like then Adam got real clothes and a real body. This world of Messiah. So it's like it's almost we wouldn't have free, and that's I guess Rob, that's the part I kind of want to ask you. Like in the world absolute, Hashem is all encompassing, right? There is nothing else. It's nothing but Hashem. How was it that Adam was able to make a choice to do something that seems to be outside of Hashem?
So ask that question one more time. Ask that question one more
So
time.
so like when Hashem or when Hakadosh Baruch Hu created Adam, we see that after the fall, before the fall, Hashem, he's in the garden. Adam's in the garden. I mean, it's direct communication with Hashem. Direct communication. There is no barriers. There's no court. There's just boom, boom, face to face in a way. Even probably closer than that. So, but when Adam fell, he has these garments now. He has clothing. So it's like he fell. If you're looking at he fell from the levels. Like now, instead of being a body of light, now you have a coarse, clothing. I mean, I guess you could even say the body that was created. Are we actually talking about the physical body of Adam when we're going through creation, or is this the spiritual manifestation of Adam in a way? So once he fell, now he's clothed. Now he's down in a lower world in a sense. He's down. I mean, I guess we could go through Beria, Yazira, and now he's in Asaya. Now he has to toil. He has to do all these things. I believe. So now my question is, how is it? How is there free will if they were in the world absolute? How is there any free will that Adam could choose to eat from the Ace of Dots? Like, how is that possible? You get what I'm
Uh,
trying to say?
yeah, I think I do. I think I do. At every level, that we're at, there's an aspect of free will there.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So, like, I mean, even though he was at like an unbelievably high, exalted, connected level, he never knew about any level that was lower than that.
Mhm.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So it's just like, it's all relative to a degree. You know what I mean? Like the level he was at, he was at a level super high by us because we're at a level super lower, but you know, conceivably, you know, um, it's all relative. It's like a kid who grows up, in the house of a billionaire. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
He
Mhm.
doesn't know what it's like. He doesn't realize that he's a billionaire. It's only when he goes and interacts with people who don't have very much and they have way less than him, and he sees all the lifestyles. He's like, oh wow, I'm a billionaire. So like I'm saying, by Adam Rishon, he was in this very high exalted level in Gan Eden, and and they that I mean that was kind of like part of the issue. You know what I mean? That's what the Nakash got him on, like this like secret reality that they didn't know about and was being held from them and this type of a thing. And I think maybe you could ask the question and say, well, how did they have, a lack at that place? Well, I mean, that's the way Hashem made them. Hashem made them with a lack. That's the whole point.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's it right there. That's it. Hashem made the world for like it was Hashem's will, like it was His will for these things to happen. Huh.
All right, so tomorrow we're gonna with the Shar Kedusha, B'as Hashem, we'll go back into that. But maybe, I mean, I'm pretty sure we'll go back into it. But I think now we're gonna go into the effects of the negative mitzvahs and their
Mm.
effect as well too. So it's good. I mean, it puts the fear of God in your bones. You know what I mean? So
Mm.
that's a very very powerful level. Anyway, so same time, 13 in wait, tomorrow's Tuesday, right?
Wednesday.
Tomorrow's
Wednesday.
Wednesday. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Anyways, all right. So we'll figure out tomorrow. Any last points? You're good.
Parquet, Rabbi Eliezer, I think I said it wrong. Parquet the Rabbi Eliezer. Yeah, we gotta do that because Rob, I was having a conversation with you in my heart, in my mind a few days ago, and I was like, man, I would love to do this with Rob, but we got so much on our plate. But you said it now, so now we gotta do it. We gotta do it. 'Cause that's Hashem. Because I was just thinking about it. I was like, I would love to do this with Rabbi Mordecai, but got too much. And you said it, so I don't know. We got to fit it
Well, I
in.
mean, the reason why I even came onto it, it was because like I'm looking for stuff for Adar, for the month
Mm.
of Adar, and they said the month of Adar is ruled by Jupiter, right? So I was trying to see if there's any sources that make the connection with Adar and Jupiter that are on here. So there was a few sources, but one of which was the Pirkei. So that's what I was reading before that. So it wasn't like I was dafka learning Pirkei, which I have. I mean, there's a lot of stuff there. I mean, it's like a really it's a unique outlook on it's a unique midrashing, right? It's midrashing, right? So it's like it's a world that in itself, like the same way we're learning the languages of the Kabbalah, the Zohar, and everything. The same thing is by the midrashim. There's all these different types of midrashim, and they come from different time periods, and they are all like coming from different perspectives. So Pirkei Eliezer is is a specific one, and anyway, so it's a whole world to talk about, but it's an amazing dynamic in the midrashim, bro. Like the comparisons and the connections. It's like that's what I'm saying. Spend you get about 3-8 lifetimes doing this. All right, so we'll continue tomorrow. Baruch atah Adonai leolam. Amen ve'amen.